Adrenaline junkies from all over the world are constantly aiming to outperform each other, and in the world of sports, that could potentially spell disaster. Get ready because we're about to explore 10 of the most dangerous sports around. Sports have been a huge source of entertainment for humans of all ages for centuries, from the Roman Colosseum to the Super Bowl. Fans love watching athletes put their bodies on the line as they experience the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. As exciting as sports are for viewers, many pose risks to the athletes. Today on Feed My Curiosity, we're going to look at the top 10 most dangerous sports around today. We'll start the countdown with car racing, which some may not consider a sport because it relies more on machinery than human strength. It is for that reason, though, that we're including it on this list, because anything that involves going over 200 miles per hour is definitely dangerous. Some people watch car races just to see crashes, and while crashes might offer a thrill, they can also be really scary. From the infamous and sometimes deadly 24-hour race in Le Mans, France, to the haunting sight of Dale Earnhardt's fatal crash in the Daytona 500, car racing has such a small margin for error that even the smallest mistake can be extremely costly. Next on the countdown is gymnastics, a sport with so much grace and elegance, but also one with significant risk involved. When we watch gymnasts at the highest levels like the Olympics, it often seems flawless, but that's just the end product of countless hours of training and potential injury. Gymnasts run, jump, and spin with incredible speed, and with little to no protection. An event like the vault is particularly easy to picture all kinds of ankle injuries happening when someone is just trying to stick the landing. Not to mention all the possibilities for someone falling on their head or neck. Coming up next, soccer, which may be surprising to some, seeing as how it's a relatively low-contact sport. But based on the number of injuries, however, soccer ranks towards the top of our list. When seen on TV, or from afar, soccer seems pretty tame in terms of physicality. That is, until you get close-up shots of the action. Not only are players constantly grabbing and knocking into each other, but they also frequently slide tackle each other with help from their spiked cleats. And perhaps the most dangerous aspect of soccer is its danger to one's dignity. Moving on to the list, we have skiing and snowboarding. Anyone who's ever tried either of these winter sports knows that in the early going, the biggest danger is to one's ego, as there is no way to avoid falling on your butt. Even for experienced skiers and snowboarders though, conquering the slopes involves great risk, just from being strapped into skis and boards that are designed to careen down steep snowy hills. What's more, busy ski resorts are usually full of people who could collide with each other, and alternatively, in more remote places, people have to watch out for bushes and trees, and even avalanches. Now we'll venture into the animal kingdom with horse and bull riding. Riding horses and bulls is dangerous for the simple fact that animals don't choose to be a part of the sport, and while they may have extensive training, they are still giant, unpredictable animals capable of significant destruction. With bulls, they get prodded and taunted for the purpose of getting them riled up, and then people are shocked when someone gets gored. It's one of the only sports on this list where injury is actually justified. Horses might seem more docile than bulls, but they still have legs and hooves that can kill. And for them, you never know when they might get spooked or just snap for no reason and send the rider flying. Why humans still force animals to be a part of our sports is a mystery, especially with the risk of serious injury. Let's talk rugby. And this section of the list could be nicknamed people bashing into each other. Because while nature and machines are dangerous, they can't compete with the brutality of two people using all their physical might against each other. One of the clearest examples of this brutality is found in rugby, often described as football without the pads. It takes a unique person to want to take part in a rugby scrum. The only thing stopping rugby from being higher on this list is the fact that the lack of pads actually makes players adjust the way they hit each other to be less damaging. That's still not enough to get me to sign up. The next sport on this list is hockey, a game that is damaging on two levels. Its normal play is inherently violent, and it also welcomes fighting as an integral part of the sport. In its essence, hockey is dangerous. Players fly around on skates, constantly checking each other, and falling on the rock-hard icy rink. Pads and helmets can only protect you so much. And on top of that, there are the inevitable moments in a hockey game where the gloves come off and the players go at each other. So not only is hockey dangerous to the players' bodies, but also their dental health. Our next sport is mixed martial arts. While hockey is dangerous partly because fighting is allowed, for a sport like MMA, fighting is the name of the game. MMA is one of the most brutal sports on the list, with fighters getting hardly any protection except for some scrawny gloves for the fighters' fists. The danger of MMA is what makes people watch, with fighters punching, kicking, grabbing, and flinging their opponents around. doing whatever it takes to physically subdue their rivals. And sure, there's a lot of nuance to proper MMA techniques, but it is still a sport that produces some of the most grotesque injuries on this list. With that out of the way, let's move on to football, a sport known as much for the injuries that can be seen by fans as it is for the ones that often go unnoticed. The violent nature of football, with players throwing themselves at each other on every play, creates a serious risk of bodily injury as well as concussions. With more and more research coming out in the recent years about the effects of football on the brain, players and league officials are questioning how the game should be played. Even though the NFL is still the most popular professional sports league in the US, it's difficult even for the most loyal fans and participants to know what the sport is actually going to look like in the future. And that leads us to our number one most dangerous sport, boxing. It should be obvious that boxing would be at the top of our list, given the fact that one of the most successful outcomes for a boxer is literally to knock the opponent unconscious. An act that is absolutely terrible for the body and brain health. Someone's head is arguably their most important bodily feature, and boxing is a sport in which that precious part of the body gets absolutely pummeled repeatedly over the course of several rounds of action. While all the sports on this list have significant risks, boxing is one of the few where injuring another player isn't a byproduct of typical action, it is the whole point of the sport. And that concludes our list of the top 10 most dangerous sports around today. We can all now have a little extra appreciation for the athletes who put their bodies on the line in these dangerous competitions for our enjoyment. And hopefully this hasn't scared you from ever participating in sports. Just remember to be safe. If you liked what you watched or have any more suggestions, hit like and comment below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button too. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time on Feed My Curiosity.